Trucking has an image problem today, and it's never been more critical than it is now for us to take the time to try to correct this public perception of the truck driver. In the 50s and 60s, when I was a kid growing up, truck drivers were the white knights of the road. When I started trucking in the 70s, they still were. But things changed. Things always change. The freeways got more packed. There was more traffic. Traffic became a problem. They introduced just-in-time shipping, receiving appointment times, ELDs, and all of these things contributed to a rush that the industry perceived was important. They got to do things faster. They got to do things faster. And then came the mega carriers. The mega carriers bought as many trucks as they could afford, even before they had drivers for them. And then looked at their situation. They had trucks against the fence, and they began hiring anybody with a pulse just to drive these trucks, just to get them on the road making money. And the result was we had all sorts of poorly trained guys out there that were creating accidents, causing accidents. The accident rate went up. The public saw this, and their perception of us went downhill. Today we find ourselves in the situation that mega carriers are putting two rookies in a truck, calling one of them the trainer when he's got no experience at all, sending them down the road no matter what the weather, no matter what the traffic, no matter what the situation is, all hours of the day and night. And the accident rates are going up because of this. Mega carriers today try to avoid safe practice. They lobby against mandatory wheel time in the seat for new rookie drivers because it costs them money when they're training them. They don't want to spend the time to fully train a rookie driver because it costs them money. They lobby against California when California tries to insist on more breaks for truck drivers within its borders. So our guys are better rested to face the traffic in California. The mega carriers lobbied against this because, again, they feel it will cost them money. And it's become all about the buck with these carriers, and they lobby these things to try to streamline their cash flow, but it affects all of us. It doesn't just affect the guys that are driving for the mega carriers. It affects all of us because the public perception of truck drivers just keeps getting worse and worse because they see these things happening. They see these rookies rushing around tired, no brakes. There are more accidents. What are they supposed to think? They think exactly what they do think. They're afraid of trucks on the interstate these days, and rightly so. And this affects all of us. And this could be your wife and kids in the family car beside one of these rookie teams in bad weather. It affects us all. So what do we have to do as a group to fight against this type of thing? Number one, if you can possibly avoid it, don't work for one of these bad actors. Don't feed their money flow. Don't be one of the low-paid drivers that hauls truckload freight for a mega carrier. Number two, and sometimes this happens, sometimes you've got to work at one of these places. So if you do, if you can't avoid it, if you've got to do it for a job, you should be out there watching what's going on between the gates. Every time they appoint a rookie driver, a driver trainer, you ought to be running into the boss and saying, "Are you crazy? That's not right." Every time you see a rookie team leaving the yard, you ought to run to the boss and go, "What are you doing? That's an accident waiting to happen." Every time another truck from your fleet passes you and the driver's got his head down because he's busy texting away, you got to run right into the boss and go, "Look, I don't like to squeal on these guys, but this guy scared the hell out of me and I caught him red-handed in the act. He wasn't even looking where he was going." You've got to do this type of thing because it affects all of us, and it affects the public's image of us. And our image has been sliding for years, and we can't afford to let it slide any farther. We've got to help ensure that the guys getting on the road today are as safe as they possibly can be. If you see them in the truck stops and they've got, I don't know, they can't back up or something like that, give them a hand. Try to help the situation and rat out the guys that are careless because they're not helping your image. Our image is being hurt and the pay is going down because of it, and the public perception of us is going down because of it. So it's critical. It's critical for you to help keep the team clean and professional. We've got to weed out the guys that don't deserve to be doing this for a living, because it affects all of us. My point after all of this is this: you can't afford to work for an irresponsible carrier. It's critical that you work for good carriers and not these bad actors. Let me tell you a story of one of the first times I encountered one of these rookie teams from a mega carrier. I'd been running all night coming back from California. I got into the loading docks about 3 a.m. and there were a couple of spots left, and I backed in. I took one of the 2 spots left, and I backed in next to another guy that I knew named Neil. Neil had a brand new Peterbilt, a beautiful spread axle trailer, kept his equipment immaculate. So I backed in a door space down from him and got ready to crash for a few hours until the receivers came in. Just as I was about to settle in, I noticed one of these rookie California teams with a mega carrier pulling a reefer come in, and he's positioning to try to set himself up to back in the hole between Neil and myself. So I'm always afraid of someone ricocheting off my truck, so I sit up to make sure he doesn't ricochet off mine. One hand on the air horn, keeping an eye on him. Well, the team doesn't ricochet off my truck. They ricochet off Neil's brand new Pete. And the whole thing kind of folds in, and I can instantly see about $5,000 damage. And they pull ahead, and I go, oh my God. I hop out and go to wake up Neil, or, if he's not awake already. And just after I walk between Neil's grill and the back of this team trailer, they back up and hit Neil's truck again. I couldn't believe it. By this time, Neil is awake. Now he's got about 10 grand damage to the truck. And here are these 2 team guys, both sitting up, one in the driver's seat, one in the passenger seat, instead of the one in the passenger seat getting out and helping guide his rookie buddy into the hole and maybe being able to stop him before he does any more damage, rather than decimate every truck in the row. And I just couldn't believe the stupidity of it. And there's no place for that in trucking, not when equipment costs this much. And if I'd been between that truck and that trailer when he backed up again, and if I hadn't caught it, I could have been pinched myself. Trucking's a dangerous thing. You've got to be careful. It's got to be safe. But I just couldn't believe these 2 clowns sitting there, each looking out a mirror, and one not guiding the other guy back. And Neil got about 10 grand worth of damage out of that deal. And that's when I started to notice these mega teams, these rookie teams working the highway. And that was a few years ago now, more than a few years ago now. Situation hasn't changed. That's my rant for the day. It's important that we choose good, safe carriers to work for, because it reflects on all of us. Take care. Safety is important out there. Keep the rubber side down, and I'll see you on the backhaul.